All right. In this lecture, we're going to continue our discussion of arguments and how to build and develop them. Now, in the past few lectures, we've looked very closely at the Aristotelian or the classical argument and how it builds on premises and how those premises entail some sort of conclusion, some sort of thesis statement or final claim that you want people to arrive at based on your evidence. Now, there's a lot of really good things about the Aristotelian argument, as I've explained before. It's the foundation for all mathematical and scientific principles, and it lets us know things beyond shadow of a doubt, which is very cool, very interesting. But there's a lot of problems, especially when it comes to inductive logic, and a lot of problems that come with this idea of presenting or evidence and then hoping people come to the same conclusion that we do, especially because this doesn't really reflect how we make arguments in our day-to-day discourse and our day-to-day discussions. And so in the 1940s or 50s, I want to say a fellow by the name of Stephen Toulmin came up with something called the Toulmin model or the Toulmin method for argumentation, right? And so if we go here to our good friends at OWL Purdue, their online writing lab has a lot of fantastic resources we'll be becoming very familiar with over the course of this semester. One of the resources that they have for us is they have a pretty good explanation of the Toulmin method, as you can see here. Now, the Toulmin method is essentially broken up into three main portions and then three additional portions that are somewhat optional. Okay? So this first is the claim, as you can see here on the page. Right? The claim is the same thing as a conclusion in an Aristotelian argument. It's the same thing as a thesis statement in all the papers you've ever written since 6th or 7th grade. Essentially, it's just what it is you believe. Right? Now, after this, we have the grounds. The OWL Purdue calls it data, so you'll sometimes see it listed as facts. It seems that we can't really settle on any one name for this. But essentially, this is all of the reasons you have for believing your claim. Right? These are all the things that you know to be true, and because you know those to be true, they make you believe the claim. Now, the third one is the tricky bit where a lot of students tend to get stuck on. This is our warrant, right? In every idea that we have, in every piece of evidence we have, there are underlying assumptions about that evidence that we make, and that's how we come to our claims. That's just something that's inescapable. I don't know if it's necessarily human nature, or the way that we constructed our society, or whatever else you want to call it. But we always have reasons for making beliefs based off of evidence, and those things aren't always things that we say out loud. The warrant is an opportunity to explain how your data supports your claim, how the underlying evidence and assumptions and things about the world cause you to believe whatever it is that you believe. Now, these three, the claim, data, and warrant, are the most important parts of the Toulmin method. The kind of optional things I was talking about at the beginning are the backing, counterclaim, sometimes grouped together with rebuttal, and something that OWL Purdue actually doesn't list here called the qualifier. And I'll explain about that in a future lecture. Now, the backing is essentially a warrant to your warrant, right? Even after you explain why you believe what you believe based on the grounds, that doesn't always necessarily make sense. Sometimes you have to explain other further underlying assumptions, right? You have to strengthen the connection to the claim and the claim to the data, and that connection is the warrant. So if we're thinking about this figuratively, right? If the claim and the data are two pieces of bone and the warrant is the muscle that is connecting them, backing is kind of additional ligaments that make sure the muscles and the bones are all going in the right direction, making sure that nothing gets confused or switched around or injured in any way. Now, as I said before, the counterclaim and the rebuttal are very often kind of coupled together. Essentially what this is you imagine some sort of argument or claim that someone could promote that would disprove your original claim. And then your rebuttal shows why that's not necessarily true, right? So this is an opportunity for you to think about doubts or questions that people might raise about your claim, or about your data, or about your warrant, or any of that stuff, and be able to handle those before those objections are ever actually raised. All right, so in our next lecture, we'll go in and we'll talk a little bit about some examples. They have some pretty good ones here on the Owl Purdue, and we have some others that we're going to go ahead and take a look at. And I'll even construct one more or less off the top of my head in one of our additional videos. But for now, that's enough, and so make sure we're taking good notes, and we'll see you at the next lecture.